Good morning. I will now call the June 16th meeting of the Education Professional Standards Board Waiver Committee to order. I am joined this morning by fellow committee member Corinne Murphy. We have 11 waivers to review to formulate a recommendation to present to the full board. We will start with waiver A, which will be presented by Sharon Salzman.
Thanks. Good morning. This waiver is a request for the admissions requirement for Director of Pupil Personnel for Chris Barrier. Dr. Gil Hunter, Dean of the College of Education, submitted the waiver. Candidate requests a waiver of Section 2 of 16 KR 3090. He's currently a school resource officer. He obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He does not possess a Kentucky teaching certificate and therefore does not have a rank 2 and does not have 3 years of teaching experience. EKU is requesting to waive the admission requirement to allow EKU to admit Mr. Barrier to the Director of Pupil Personnel Program.
I did have a question about this one. Do we have a comparison of the Director of Pupil Personnel duties versus what he's been doing, or teacher duties, any kind of comparison?
Well, he's a school resource officer, so I'm not sure that, and he has no teaching experience at all, from what I'm gathering.
Do we have any precedent?
I don't think that we have one specifically for the DPP position. We have seen these for different administrator roles where someone has come and asked for a waiver of typically a portion of Section 2, or they have asked you to accept other experience as teaching experience. This one is a very significant waiver of Section 2 because you do not have the teaching experience, the teaching certificate, or the rank. And there have been other administrative requests that have been denied in the past that have had a portion of those requirements, but not all.
Do we have a recommendation, Ms. Murphy?
I can't say that I'm swayed to say yes at this point, unless there's something that I'm missing about, to your point, the idea that there are aspects of the SRO job that are directly tied to the DPP. I mean, without having been in a classroom, there's some significant gaps here.
And if the board were to vote to deny this, the individual and the university always have the ability to bring the waiver request back to you at a future meeting with additional documentation that does alleviate or could alleviate some of those concerns.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we deny the waiver request.
I second.
All righty. Our next waiver B, will be presented by Crystal Horde, please.
Thank you. Waiver B is requested by Mercer County Schools on behalf of Carmen Sallee. Ms. Sallee is an elementary teacher. She can teach up to grade 6 in an elementary school configuration. She was hired for the 22-23 school year as a 6th grade math teacher at Knight Middle School in Mercer County. This did not create a lead issue on their report, probably because we were in the middle of implementing the new lead system with KEX. She's done, the district indicates she's done a fantastic job. They would like to keep her in that position since they've had no other middle school math qualified applicants. She did have a math specialization on her undergraduate degree, and she plans on pursuing the 5 through 9 math certification through the middle school or through the CA, the highly qualified route this year. So they would like to keep her in that position for 23-24.
I make a motion that we approve waiver B.
Second.
All righty. Waiver C will also be presented by Ms. Hort.
Okay, thank you. Waiver C is requested by Knott County Schools on behalf of 3 teachers. They all teach at Cordia School, which is a pre-K through 12 school. They have kind of a unique setup at that school, and don't really have the resources to hire additional teachers. They use their elementaries in a K1 and 2-3 split, but it leaves them understaffed for 4th grade. They are asking to use these 3 teachers who are certified. One of them is 5 through 9 social studies, one is 5 through 9 science, and one is 5 through 9 math, to extend down to 4th grade in their own content area. So they would still be in their content. They would just be dropping a grade level down for the 23-24 year.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the waiver as it's been submitted.
Second, Waiver C. And Waiver D will also be presented by Ms. Hort.
Waiver D is requested by the Office of Career and Technical Education and Harrison County Area Technology Center on behalf of Christina Combs. This is for an industrial maintenance vacancy. 16 KAR 2020 requires occupation-based certifications to have a minimum of 4 years of teaching experience, with at least 2 of those years being in the last 5-year period. She does have the 4 years of occupation experience in this role with Toyota, but she doesn't have 2 years within the last 5. Given that there's no other applicants for the position, OCTE and Harrison County is requesting this waiver.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
I second the motion. On to Waiver E, also presented by Ms. Hort.
Waiver E, these next 2 are going to be almost identical. Waiver E is requested by Dr. Glenn Beatty at Spalding University on behalf of candidate Jason Lawson. Mr. Lawson completed his school counseling program. I believe his was in 2017. Either way, it was his certificate, his provisional counseling certificate is coming up for renewal this year. At the time, he completed the 33-hour master's program that would have led to the provisional school counseling, as well as the 6 hours additional that they require for the standard counseling. He's not been working in a school counselor position over the past 5 years, so his renewal is coming up due, but he's already completed the standard course requirement. University is requesting waiver of the additional coursework to renew.
I make a motion that we approve Waiver E.
Second.
Thank you. And on to Waiver F, also presented by Ms. Hort.
Waiver F is the same identical scenario, different candidate. This is Tiffany Swinehart. She's also completed the full 39-hour provisional and standard counseling coursework. She just doesn't have the counseling experience again. So we would be renewing the provisional certificate for another 5 years.
I had a quick question about this one because I didn't see a transcript or her GPA. Is there a GPA requirement?
So she would have met the GPA requirement when we issued the certification initially. So since there's been no new coursework completed, we're just giving her another 5 years.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve Waiver F.
Second.
All righty. On to Waiver G, also presented by Ms. Hort.
Okay. Waiver G is requested by Miss Maggie Hendricks. This is a waiver of 4030, the out-of-state educator preparation regulation. And in that regulation, it requires educators who completed their programs out of state to possess the equivalent certificate from the state or jurisdiction where they completed their program. She is a Kentucky native, Kentucky resident. She went to Oakland City University on an athletic scholarship, completed her program, moved back home to Kentucky with no intent to certify in Indiana. She's taken all of the Kentucky required praxis tests and passed them, and has been employed in Kentucky for this last year, and she's requesting that piece of 4030 to be waived.
Do we have a motion for waiver G?
Yes, I move to approve waiver G.
I second the motion. Waiver H, also presented by Ms. Horde.
Okay. Same regulation, 4030 for out-of-state prepared educators, a little bit different circumstance on this one. Ms. Rachel Logan is requesting this waiver on behalf of herself. She is employed as a school counselor in Whitley County Schools. She wanted to pursue the IIA endorsement, which is the individual intellectual assessment endorsement, to be able to do all the testing that school psychologists do. The only program available in the state that we have an approved program for is at Murray State University, but it is not a fully online program. So no way she could complete that unless she were to travel to Murray State from southeastern Kentucky. So she found a program. She reached out to us. It was at Lindenwood University in Missouri, that leads to an equivalent permission or certificate in the state of Missouri. It's a 27-hour program. Lindenwood, we did research that university and determined that Lindenwood is NC SARA accredited, as well as accredited with the Higher Learning Commission. So she completed that program and is requesting a waiver to obtain the Missouri certificate. And there is no assessment required for this piece.
I move to approve the waiver.
I had a quick question.
Okay.
And the only question is, if she were in state, would an in-state candidate have to do anything different than what she's doing?
No, there's no test required. And I think actually the coursework required in the Missouri program is more extensive than what would have been required had she done it through Murray State.
Okay, then I second the motion to approve waiver H. On to waiver I, also presented by Ms. Horde.
So waiver I is 4080. It's the out-of-state recency requirement, requiring out-of-state educators to have completed their program within the last 5 years or have 6 hours of graduate coursework within the past 5 years. The first one is requested by Ashley Brinker at the recommendation of Clark County Schools, where she's employed this year. She is a military spouse. She completed her teacher preparation program in Pennsylvania 16 years ago. She moves around a lot, but she also she was teaching, she taught consistently from 2012 to 2016, had a break, and then has been teaching 2019 to 2023. So she has 3 years of teaching experience within the past 5 years. She just doesn't have any graduate credit after her undergraduate. And sometimes with those military spouses where they move around a lot, makes it difficult. So they are requesting a waiver of the recency requirement of the 6 hours so that she can go ahead and renew for the full 5-year period.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the waiver as presented.
Okay, I will second the approval of waiver I. On to waiver J, also presented by Ms. Horde.
Waiver J, same regulation, similar scenario. This is requested by Ms. Charlotte Palmer. She was employed for the 22-23 school year with Simpson County Schools. She was originally completed her program in Florida in 2001. She's been consistently employed in Florida before coming to Kentucky from 2006 to 2022, both as elementary teacher and a school media librarian. And then she was employed this year, 22-23, in Simpson County as an elementary teacher. So consistent experience since 2006. But no graduate credit within the last 5 years. And she's requesting a waiver of that requirement.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, I lost unmute for a moment. I'm so sorry. I move to approve the motion as presented.
I second the motion. And on to waiver K, also presented by Ms. Hort.
And our final waiver today is the same regulation, recency 4080, requested by Mr. Charles Pierce. He is employed in Montgomery County as a high school math teacher for the 22-23 school year. He completed his alternative certification program through TNTP in Texas in 2014. He taught 14 to 18 in Texas, 18 to 21 in Massachusetts, took a year off for 21-22, and then moved to Kentucky and was employed in Montgomery County 22-23. So he's been employed 4 out of the last 5 years and is requesting a waiver of the recency requirement of 6 hours.
I make a motion that we approve waiver K.
A second.
All righty. Hearing no further discussion, at this time, the waiver committee meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.